Cool. So thanks for having me. Really excited to be in Charlotte and speaking with everybody. I think it's a kind of good enough group that I'd love for everybody to, if you've got a question, raise your hand, or just yell it out, or anything. But keep it dynamic. If you're confused by something, if you disagree, let's talk about it. And hopefully, you'll get a couple of interesting nuggets of information from the session today. So I don't know if what I'm about to talk about are secrets per se, but they're more just that's kind of marketing talk. It's more about just some of the learnings that we've seen, and I'm kind of excited to share it with you guys. So super fast Conductor. Basically, I think about us as kind of the ultimate evangelists for SEOs for large organizations. We kind of think of ourselves as kind of an enablement company. We are trying to bring, we fundamentally believe that the reason why organic search is such an underinvested channel is because people don't have information. People are kind of flying planes without instruments. And we're really a technology company trying to kind of bring the instruments to the pilots and really trying to give organizations a greater level of comfort to invest in SEO as a much more significant channel than the normal 5% of your paid search investment, which is kind of typically what we see when we start working with someone. Kind of start things off before we get into the super secrets. Search is kind of upside down. This is kind of the reason why we started the company about 5 years ago. There's about 22, some people say 30, but there's billions of searches done every day, every month on Google, right? And I think the interesting thing is that I think you could say pretty conclusively now that almost every search, right, every kind of product or business decision are informed by a search engine at some point, right? Whether it's early in the process, late in the process. We have customers. So we have a customer who's a giant kind of Fortune 100 B2B company, and they generated I love telling the story, they generated a $750 million opportunity for someone searching for water filtration technology, found them on Google, and ultimately led to a contract which helped them build out this kind of water purification plant in the Midwest, all from an organic search click, right? And I say that because while obviously we're all here because we want to get better at search, I think there's still that lingering mentality of like, well, it's my business. This might not be good for my business, or it's maybe better for those guys selling digital cameras, but we have kind of niche products and we do things by catalogs or we do things by this, and I think my generation are now moving up into those director roles or into those buyer roles. We're making decisions, and people like me, we go to search engines when we make decisions, right? And I think that's that's the reason why we're all here. And what's also pretty cool is most of the traffic that goes to the search engines, right, commercial and non-commercial traffic, goes to organic search, right? ComScore says it's 92%, Hitwise says it's 88%. Whatever it is, it's a lot, right? And it's typically the opposite of how your investments look. And when you look at how consumers make decisions, right, and this is just a study that I just grabbed, there's obviously lots of studies, compared against other channels, compared against recommendation engines, social networks, whatever it is, search engines typically are the most influential kind of source of making a decision, right? It's the ultimate, I'm looking for something, while I'm looking for it, I can find it, and it's huge, right? And obviously that's again why we're here. Now, this is the kind of economic thesis of why I started the company. While all the traffic is going to organic search, all the money for the most part, right? And it's definitely changed through the years, but for the most part, organic search is still very underinvested, right? I meet companies all the time. How much are you spending on paid search? $7 million. How much are you spending on organic search? $150,000 a year. How much of your what's your number one source of traffic? Direct, people just typing in direct. What's your number two source of traffic? Organic search, right? And it's like, what's your number 10, investment channel? Organic search, right? And that's a typical situation, and sometimes that works out for companies. A lot of times it doesn't, right? What we're starting to see is that when you underinvest, it's not just about gaining SEO traffic and organic search traffic, but today I think the world is a little bit more like you gotta invest just to keep it the same, right? You can lose that traffic. We have seen big companies lose traffic that they had been really driving their web business because they thought it was free and they treated it like free, and I think they realized that there's nothing free, unfortunately. Why does this paradigm exist? There's a lot of reasons, but paid search is predictable, right? You know what you get in, you know what you get out, easy to measure. You guys spent a whole day on it 2 days ago. I think it's very easy to scale, like incrementally. Every CMO wants to say, let's do a test, right? And then let's do a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, right? No one wants to dive in. And ultimately, while we're all pretty deep in the kind of paid search pool, we didn't get there right away, right? It was very incremental. And it's easy to understand, right? We're all human beings. We want to do things that we feel good. We want to talk about and spend time doing things that we feel good about and we're experts in, and that are easy to understand. When you don't understand something, you don't want to talk about it because you don't feel like you're an expert. And when you look at organic search, right, there's a slew of problems, right? Requires people to collaborate. That's really hard, right? Our company is 50 people. And we're pretty good at collaborating, but I can see how you get to 500 people, it gets a little harder. Get to 5,000 people, it gets even harder. But collaboration is easy to talk about, it's hard, it's really what it comes down to, right? And then when you have people that have to collaborate that don't work on the same team, and they have different goals, right? And they have different priorities, and you need them all to succeed, that's really hard. Hard to determine ROI, getting better, but still difficult, right? And maybe at the high level you can, but when you really want to slice and dice those individual investments, it's difficult. Executives don't get it, right? Now that's obviously not a ubiquitous statement, but often you'll find is that senior people at companies, they don't understand it, and I think more importantly, they don't want to understand it, right? They don't want to understand it. I can quickly, I have like a quick gut check. One of our investors or someone introduces us to a CMO of a company or a VP marketing or whatever it is, and I tell them, I write them an email, hey, how you doing? I'm Seth, here's what we do, and I'd love to talk to you about Conductor, but I also have learned a lot about what companies have done to succeed in SEO from your level. I'd love to chat with you a few minutes before you have me talk to your team. Now you get two outcomes. It's the SEO punt, right? Which is, go talk to my SEO person, they're the person, they're gonna tell me what's going on. Or it's, let's get on the phone, I really wanna learn what you have to say. And maybe it's only 15 minutes, maybe it's a half hour, but I can tell the big difference between, I have CEOs of billion-dollar companies that have sat down with me for like a half hour and taken notes. And then I have people who are customers, who are VPs of marketing, who don't even wanna talk to me, they just want us to talk to their SEO guy, right? And that's that's because they don't understand, they don't have a desire to understand. And if they don't desire to understand, it's very hard for those individual contributors that are doing SEO to really be successful. Particularly because, like it or not, SEO people and search people, it's very hard to say, give me all these resources, I'm gonna put a big number on my head, and I'm either gonna do it, and you're gonna give me a raise, or I'm not gonna do it, and you're gonna let me go, right? It's hard to do that, and if you don't have the support from above, you're kind of, I guess, shit out of luck, is that what they say? Sorry for the bad words. So anyway, that's all good news actually, because that's why there's an opportunity, right? If it was easy, if you could just throw money at it and turn on the dials, that's the easy stuff, right? Paid search is like that. The opportunity to keep using your brain to get better, that's starting to kind of come along the asymptote. The incremental optimization opportunities are getting smaller. Doesn't mean it's not a great place to spend your money, but what's next? And we still see obviously that there's a lot of companies, big companies, small companies. What percentage of your organic search traffic is brand keywords, non-brand keywords? Oh, we're 90% brand keywords. Well, that's an immediate indicator to me that you're not doing really anything organic. That means that there's typically a huge SEO opportunity for you. So, why is it hard to scale and be successful at organic search? This is kind of a very quintessential org chart. You got investor relations, sales, communications, marketing, technology, product management. Everyone's set up differently. And let's just assume that SEO is in the marketing organization. And that's not always. Sometimes it's in product. Sometimes it's in technology. And I'd love to talk about that separately. But you got paid, you got display, you got email, you got PR, you got SEO. Now, all of these functions, except for SEO, you literally can have one person own it and probably execute like 80% of the opportunity without getting anybody else in the company involved, for the most part, right? You can implement display campaigns, you can implement paid search campaigns without getting people involved. We have a client that's been with us for a while, And they told us a story about how they started doing paid search, and it was literally a guy, he couldn't get the budget for paid search, so he used his own credit card, used his own money, and started doing it, was hoping that he would get kind of an expense reimbursement, and he believed in it that much. And he was able to implement a paid search campaign on his own at his house, not even as part of his 9-to-5 job, as an individual contributor without any kind of support. Awesome. When it comes to SEO, right, I just expanded that. You need, like, to be successful, it's very, very rare, and God bless you if this doesn't apply to you, that you can do it all on your own, right? You need everybody involved, right? When I go to meetings with potential new customers in 2011 versus 2009, I see a lot more heads of, I see a lot more product managers, engineers, tech ops people. You see a lot more of those folks involved, and I love that, right? That means that they're ready to actually do it right. This is kind of the paradigm that exists, and this is what makes it so hard, right? And this is why SEO is not media buying; it's paid. It's a business process. I've seen a bunch of companies, good and bad, go through this journey of going from, we want to do something to actually doing something very material. I've seen people fail, I've seen people succeed, and there's a lot that goes into this. This presentation is the furthest thing from a silver bullet to being successful at SEO, but we've learned some things, we've seen some common themes across some of our best kind of customers, and I wanted to share kind of like 10 of those ideas. And my hope is that at least one of them would be useful to you. And I think if that is, then it will be worth the 50 minutes that we are spending together on this lovely morning in Charlotte. So first thing, Sue, raise your hands. How many people know why they go to work every day? All right, cool. I know why I got through. So next question is, I guess this is applicable if you're on the search or you have some responsibility for SEO. How many of you know, like, what the maximum opportunity for SEO is? Like, if you did everything right, everything went well, and you knew a Google engineer, and everything was perfect, right? Like, what the most you can do is, what the opportunity is. But I asked you, why do you go to work in the morning? Right? I guess my point there, maybe I'm being hyperbolic, but my point is that you need to know what you're doing, right? How do you know? I mean, in order for SEO to be adopted, it needs to be a high priority, right? Because if it's not a high priority, then you're just a janitor cleaning up other people's messes, right? It needs to be a higher priority. How do you know it's a high priority? Well, what's it worth, right? How do companies figure out priorities? Opportunity, resources to acquire that opportunity, risks that will get there, and easiness, right? Easiness or hardness. So you as that advocate, whether you are directing an SEO team or whether you're responsible for an SEO team, what's the opportunity, right? How do you measure yourself? How do you know if it's even worth it, right? How do you know whether you should spend time on it? And in case sometimes you might know that there's an incredible opportunity and you're just way under-resourced, right? And you can have other people in the organization do that for their respective responsibility and compare who's got the bigger opportunity and make sure the company is realizing it. So I've talked about this for a couple of years now, and it still profounds me how often I go into a company and they don't know what they're going after, right? They don't know the carrot at the end of the stick. So I got a super layman way of kind of thinking about this, and this is just kind of food for thought and a way to kind of stimulate some thinking, but pretty simple, right, in concept. Everyone has a set of keywords that they're going after, for the most part, right? Take your highest performing paid search keywords. You have like the keywords that your non-seasonal keywords that you're going after. Think about some secondary keywords, right? If you sell a product and there's a couple of keywords that are directly related to it, but there's keywords that might not convert on your site at 3%, but they'll convert at 1%. Think about those keywords. I call those secondary keywords. And don't forget that the secondary keywords have lower conversion rates, so you're going to need that for some of the math here. And just so you know, I see some people taking notes, which is good. But all this content is going to be, there's a little download link, conductor.com/SE2011. The deck is up there, and there's some tools and stuff, so all this is up there. You got to get the search volume right. So Google's got the best source for that today. Not perfect, but it's better than, you know, I think it's either better than nothing, it sucks less than everything else, however you want to look at it, but there's data on how often people are searching, so you got to get that information. You got to get some scenarios. How aggressive do you think you can be, right? So you have the number of keywords, their search volume, how much you think you're going to be able to get. Are we going to be able to make a dent? Are we going to be able to make a small improvement, a big improvement? You can build, you can build models that say we're going to get 5% of our keywords improving by 10 positions, or we're going to get all of our keywords to number 1, right? And you can do. I mean, what we do for customers is we do like some Monte Carlo simulations. So you're saying a bunch of different keywords, go have a bunch of different scenarios, and what's the standard deviation of what the overall opportunity is. You can get really smart about it. And then you got to correlate this against a click-through curve, right? You probably have some sense from just looking at your data that when your business ranks in a certain spot, what is it going to be? There's obviously the AOL data from years ago. Webmaster Tools now has data that says what rank you're in and what the commensurate click-through percentage is. But you got to use that data in the whole mix and do some math. And I'll make this a little easier for you. And actually, I will actually show you something that we've made and is part of the downloads. So it's this market opportunity calculator. Ooh, hold on a second. Gotta find you. There you go. Sorry. So it's got instructions. It's free. And basically, I'm not going to go into all the details right now, but sorry, I can't see. Well, anyway, there's a bunch of stuff that you put the keywords in. It's got the formulas for you. It's got I can't get to the bottom here, so I can't show you how to change the tabs, and I can't expand this. Oh, here you go. Boom. So basically, you put in your keyword data, and then you will get some kind of share analysis. So, what's my share against the overall opportunity? And then, if you want to ping me, I have some more sophisticated models that will do like simulations, and ultimately you will get a little pie chart. Boom. I know I'm making it seem easy, but it's what's my realized opportunity and what's the unrealized opportunity, right? Keep it really simple.
When you talk about determining how aggressive you can be, are you referring to what kind of budget is there, or how aggressive you're really building to be?
I think it's I look at it more about like you ever put a budget together or plan, it's like here's the conservative estimates, here's the aggressive. So it's kind of like aggressive would be the most aggressive is every keyword ranks number 1. The least aggressive is every keyword goes up by 1 position, right? In terms of how the math works, in terms of like 1 incremental improvement from your current baseline is gonna drive this much extra traffic. So you want to build some scenarios about how much, what do you think is realistic, and that's how you can not take this opportunity and figure out how do we, like, if we just did a little bit better, what is that going to mean to our business? So first you want to figure out what the current opportunity is, what's your penetration against that, but then you want to think about, well, if we just did a little bit, what would we get? If we did a lot more, what would we get and get that? Now this is in terms of traffic, but in the model that I have for download or in your own models, you can append that with your conversion rates and your revenue metrics. So you can actually look at this in terms of dollars and cents or whatever your business metrics are, because visitors are interesting, but business metrics and sales metrics are bigger. Now when you have this thing, I think this is important. You're gonna have this thing, print it out. This is a little big. We messed up when we ordered it. Right. Why do you come to work every day? Put it on your cube, and then every quarter, do it again, and hopefully you're gonna put a little notation here, like it's kind of like you have your kids, right? You measure how tall they are. I haven't done that yet, but I did that when I was a kid. Every year you do a little thing. Do this, right? And put like the date and how you're doing. This ties to a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about, but it's a nice thing to get other people interested in seeing it, right? Or at least put it on your own cube so you know why you come to work every day. All right. Next thing. Be self-aware, right? Top 4 things that I interview for when I interview people. Used to be about how good they were at their job. Now it's about what kind of human being are you. right? And one of the 4 things are self-awareness, right? Because self-awareness is how introspective you are, your understanding of like how good are you at something. Well, what do you need to be what do you need to do to be successful? Of those things that you need to do to be successful, what are my strengths? Where am I good at? And then what do I need to get better at? And I think that's foundational to people as improving, right? How do you improve when you don't know what you want to improve on? And I think it very much applies to your SEO efforts. You need to take a real honest assessment of yourself and the things that you want to get better at, and that's part of building a plan, right? You need to have a plan. You need to have a way to feel good about success. That's not just looking at your traffic, which is important. And this is actually what we do. We didn't always do this, but when we bring on a new customer today, and sometimes people like this, and sometimes they'll think it's annoying, but in 6 months from when we do it, they don't think it's annoying because they're happy we did it 6 months ago. It's like, I started like, I've made like 5 diary entries in the last 18 months in this online diary, and it's kind of annoying doing it, but I'm happy that when I go back and look at it, because I had it written down, this is kind of like the same kind of exercise. So this is an example. It doesn't have to be your way. This is just a general way. But these are some things that are important to a successful SEO program. Anything from cooperation, internal cooperation, collaboration, executive reporting, link building, copywriting, keyword discovery. Rate yourself. Be honest. You can share it with people, you can not, but rate yourself and then ask yourself, what do you think you need to do to get better, and where in which areas you want to improve on, and then set some goals, right? Set some goals and have you and your team mutually agree on it. Whether this is something that you want to use to manage people, to manage your agency, to manage your consultants, to manage your boss, or your boss to manage you, but this is just a way for you to do an assessment of what you can do better. You're obviously not going to get the 5s and everything in the next 6 months, next year, but what do you want to improve on, and how are you going to measure it, right? And that's important, right? Bringing measurement, trying to do everything. Like this business of SEO is hard, and it's hard because there's just not easy metrics. So you're trying to like bring metrics to it and bring some ways to measure it. So next thing, SEO is not paid media. It's not paid media. It might be managed by a CMO or a head of marketing, but it's not paid media. It's not like everything else. It's a business process. It's what I showed before. It touches everything else. It's the hardest job. It's one of the hardest things because you got to get people who don't have SEO in their job description to help you out. So when you think about a business process and your company, you need to think about your role, right? The role of the SEO team, not as a doer function, right? You shouldn't be spending your days implementing title tag changes or cleaning up when people change pages and put the wrong redirects up. I mean, you obviously got to do some of that, right? Just like I, take out the garbage in the office once in a while. Like you got to do everything, but what you really got to think about your job is as the function is it's an enablement center, right? It is a enablement center, an enablement of business process. How do you turn as many people in your company as possible? How do you turn them into people who are helping the SEO effort? Whether they know they're helping or whether they don't know they're helping, it doesn't really matter, but whether they're helping. And how do you turn, you might not have a link building team, but I bet there's link builders in your company that you can turn into link builders. Right? We have a company that they do a lot of buying of hardware, and they're a consumer electronics company, and they when they buy hardware, they get links back to their sites from their buyers. Right? They don't buy the links, they buy the hardware, but as part of being a partner, that's part of what they do, and their buyer teams know that that's something that they're doing, that they need to do, and it's part of an overall company initiative about SEO, right? Those are salespeople. That's interesting. So think about it as we like the idea of creating kind of this SEO center of excellence. This is could be anything you want it to be, but it's a central knowledge base, center, communication system, wiki, platform, whatever it is, to help other people as part of their normal day-to-day make a contribution to SEO. And I will give you some examples. So some companies have a lot of video content. There's people who are putting up videos. Most people who put up videos can give very, very few hoots about if those videos rank in search engines. They'd like them to rank. They don't want to not want them to rank, but they don't know. They don't know. if you can give them some instructions on how to put a video up on YouTube and give them like a little guideline, and it's not the SEO way of doing it, it's just the way of doing it. And if you're lucky enough and you can get some kind of executive support and say, hey, this is the way this is our process, this is how it's done, we're just going to make an amendment to the process, you've kind of backdoored your way into something that someone's already doing, and you're getting them, you are getting them to kind of comply with some of the standards and giving them some help, and people are usually eager to get help, and you might have some better optimized videos. Style guides. Now this is more relevant to, I guess, medium to larger size companies, but companies work a lot off style guides. How you make your website, how you make content, all these things. People are already acting with style guides. Like, it's part of the business process is to go to style guides. When you hire an agency, you give them a style guide. Well, if you can kind of backdoor your way and get into the style guide and get some of the SEO requirements inside the style guide, then you will fundamentally have kind of piggyback onto existing business process without really forcing anyone to do anything. You're helping the company. You can measure it. And what you've done is, instead of you being one person and you doing kind of incremental things, you've enabled teams of people to do more, right? And the reality is that, you know, our biggest customer, but we have 4 Fortune 10 customers. None of them have more than 10 search people out of a 10 or 20 or 30 or 50,000 person organization. And that's great that they have 10, but that's a lot. You can't do it all on your own. You gotta be an enablement center. You gotta think about it as a business process, and you gotta think about it as enabling business process, and you gotta get the people above and on your side understanding that. You gotta get creative, right? Bill Hunt talks about this stuff a lot, and he says it's like corporate ninja ship, right? That's what he calls it. But I think it's interesting. So embrace technology. And while I'm biased here, I think there's, you know, we started doing what we're doing because we saw certain people struggling, and we saw pretty decent sized SEO organizations doing things that are manual. But you need to have scale. You need to be thinking about scale. You need information. You should not be doing too many things manually. You should not be auditing pages every week. You should not be, you know, even, you know, going to Google every 3 days to check where certain keywords are ranking. I mean, you should not be doing that, right? You need to think about scale. You need to have technology. You need to have infrastructure. There's tons of tools out there. There's free tools. There's paid tools. There's all kinds of things. But you need to have data, right? You need to have the best instruments, right? Because you know, what's the difference between a plane that can, you know, I mean, might be a bad analogy, but yeah, what's the difference between a plane that can drive, that can successfully go from New York to North Carolina or New York to Hong Kong, right? Or maybe in 1979 versus today. It's not that they have more pilots, right? It's just they have better instruments, right? Better technology, better planes, better information, right? I'm not an aviator, but I know that you know, there's times of the day when you can fly based on how well you can use the instruments and what kind of planes you're using and how much information they have. And I think we're all kind of little pilots in our own SEO world, and we need to have lots of information to make decisions, right? You're the brains, but you need the information to make decisions. This is a study that we've done, right? We surveyed, we're really kind of pretty passionate about this idea of manual versus automation and how people spend their time. You can't automate SEO, but you can enable it. And this is just some really cool research that we've done. We have a research arm, and it's just profound about how more efficient you can be when you're not doing all these things on your own. Especially when you have one person, it goes back to that fundamental theme. Like, you are an enabler, right? And you shouldn't be spending, your time is too valuable to be doing too many things like on your own. You gotta think about scale. And this research report is on the link. So, the next thing, you gotta be, your organization has to be fundamentally focused on the competition. This is something that's been in my head for a while, and I tried to put it into a slide, so we'll see how it works. All right. So this is how my brain works. Sorry about that. So let me explain what this means. You got optimization on the bottom, you got rank on top. Basically, how well you rank is pretty much a it's all relative, right? We have customers that are in the ticket space, really competitive, versus customers that are in the water filtration technology space. You have two of those customers, and they're not that competitive. What they need, their level of optimization down here on the bottom, it needs to be different than in other categories. But the point here is that if you go up a little bit and the competition goes up that same little bit, then it's neutral, right? Nothing happens. So if everybody stays the same. But if they go up a little bit and you don't go up at all, then you lose your spot. And the point of this is that you need to constantly be looking at what the competition is doing. And these are not your business competitors, these are your SEO competitors, but how you drive your strategy should be based off of two things. One, is my competition doing it and do I need to do it just to keep up with them? Or two, is it something that they're not doing and it's a way I can get ahead of them? And like it or not, that's the way that the search engines work. Every keyword is based off of how well you are optimized against someone else. Now, competition is funny because it's not, if you're Lowe's and you ask the CEO of Lowe's, who's the competitor, who's your competition, you say Home Depot. But when you ask the search team, hopefully you're not going to hear Home Depot as the only answer. That's a business competitor, right? When it comes to the web, you have what I call like the web competitors or internet competitors. And when we started the company, we used to call them underwear marketers sometimes because there's the guys that are home in their underwear that are ranking number 1, 2, and 3 for all your keywords, but they have these little one-page websites. Now there's a lot less of those guys out there, but they still exist. They've got smarter. But those are the competition, right? It's the affiliate sites. If you're a manufacturer, it can be your retailers. It can be anybody. It's not necessarily your business competitors. And the things that you do to learn from the competition is different than reporting, right? You want to go tell your boss, hey, great, we're beating Home Depot. Awesome. But when you want to get into the details and figure out how to get better, it's not about Home Depot. It's about build.com. They're really good. And they are not someone, a lot of you probably haven't heard of it, but they crush it when it comes to SEO for home improvement. So here's a couple ideas. It's a lot here, but build a competitive database. So you got 800 keywords that are your 800 most important keywords. You got the top 100 ranking URLs for each of those keywords. You have a database. You look at the URLs. You look at the top 50 URLs that show up that aren't yours, right? As a percentage of what other domains are most frequently showing up. Then you filter that by of those domains. You look at maybe the average ranking for those keywords against those URLs. And you ultimately want to get a report that looks a lot more detailed, that looks something like this, where, okay, I'm XYZ company, this company, this company, and this company, their URLs are showing up 68% of the time against my URL set. Their average rank for my keywords is 3.2. You'll be surprised when you run this analysis, because it's not going to be Home Depot. It's going to be someone else. And these are your competition, right? These are the people that you watch. Now, once you have this set, you want to watch them over time. Right, you want to watch them change. You want to watch how these numbers change. So I got one competitor that's doing good. What did that person do differently? How did their pages change? How did their link building strategy change? Right, all this information is available if you're smart. You can do retrospectives and you can look at things historically. Right? Our customers can look at their competitors' information and their source code of their pages as far back as they want. There's a lot of power out there, right? So you want to look at this information. Now these guys went down. Yay! They went down. You want to actually, you can learn a lot from people going down. Maybe they did something that you might be doing too that they got penalized for, right? Maybe they made some big change and all of a sudden they got whacked. Or who knows what it is, but you want to look at how they changed and you want to learn from their mistakes just like you want to learn from the winnings of the good guys. You want to look at new competitors, so your most important keywords, are there all of a sudden new companies that are popping up? A lot of times when you have new competition, they'll go straight through some of your big keywords and they'll just pop up, but you want to make sure you're on that and you want to just monitor these guys. Again, you want to be looking at lots of information. This is something I put in the download. It's a straw man competitive dashboard, but basically you can see who your competitors are. We've labeled them. Business, SEO, you do all the manual labeling. Here's some metrics that you might want to look at. You can see if they're getting stronger or weaker. You can see if they're below this cutoff line, which means they show up, but they're not really showing up enough for you to manage them. But this is just, again, a lot of this is to spark ideas. I'm only hoping that you take one of these ideas home and do something about it. So, next thing, run SEO like a business. I made this joke before, I'll make it again, right? You might be a monkey, but be a monkey with a suit. So what does that mean? It means a lot of things, but manage against the metrics, business results, not milestones, right? What does that mean? Manage against revenue and traffic and real numbers, not necessarily ranks, right? If you've got this funnel here, how many keywords am I managing? Where do those keywords rank? But then you flow it into traffic and revenue. And a modern day SEO and kind of the next wave of SEO and how companies are managing it, they're managing off of their success metrics, right? Whether it's finding what keywords to focus on, whether it's finding out what's working, and as much as possible, finding out how they're doing against their competition, they're looking at the business metrics. Keep a P&L. We built the P&L for you that you can use. An SEO P&L, it's really simple. But keep a P&L of how much are you spending, do allocations of people's time in your head, so how many engineers worked on this project, and how much do I think those guys make, and what percentage of how many hours do they put into it. Keep a P&L of how the SEO team is doing, right? It's an easy way to impress someone in your organization, but it's a good way to understand, are you doing a good job, are you making money, and if the numbers look good, then that's good, share it with someone. If they don't look good, figure out what you need to do to make it look better. But think about, be a business person, right? I've seen it happen, right? I mean, we see companies, we have clients that are started off as an SEO manager, and now they are in VP roles managing the earned media channel. And it's because they do things like this, and they take risks, they execute, and they think like a business person. Not, and again, I'm not saying don't spend all your, you're not the CFO, but this is just, again, some ideas. All right, this is my favorite section here. This is when you got to start. Now you got to start listening. Pay attention. So measuring SEO like paid media, right? So many companies, their fundamental way that they measure SEO as a channel, as an ROI, is backwards. And what that does is it means that it just becomes this thing that no one looks at or really cares about, doesn't get the support. I met a company at Shop.org 3 weeks ago, and they said that they take all of their SEO revenue. We're talking about attribution modeling. This is bizarre. They take all their SEO revenue, and even if the last click is organic search, they attribute it to 100% to some other channel because they don't pay for SEO and they want to make their other channels look better. Meanwhile, they spend $80,000 a year on SEO at most, and this is a multi-billion-dollar retailer. I mean, that's crazy. So here's some thoughts. So SEO ROI, right? So revenue, SEO revenue, minus revenue you get from doing nothing, right? Because you will get something for doing nothing, so you can't be greedy, over your investment. Simple, right? Not quite, but there's a few ways to look at it. There's a lot of ways to look at it, but I'm trying to make this easier. So you can look at all the keywords that drive traffic to your website, or you can just look at the non-branded keywords. Makes a difference, right? Your brand keywords are probably going to be in that category of, I'm going to probably keep getting traffic for those keywords, even if they fire me. All my natural search revenue, so everything, or just the year-over-year difference. We did $1 million in SEO revenue last year. We did 1.2 this year. So we made $200,000, or we made $1.2 million. I don't know. That's where it becomes interesting. Multi-session. So are you doing any kind of attribution? Right? I mean, most of the data says SEO is early in the funnel, searching for broader terms. Or is it just last click? And then your costs, headcount, technology, engineering time, and then programs, right? Things that you're hiring content writers, you're hiring third parties. So how to look bad. Here's the way to look bad. And here's the way to make it so SEO is not interesting to your executive team. You take the non-branded keywords, you look at the year-over-year traffic, and you do last click attribution over all your expenses. So basically, you only get credit for the incremental. What this assumes, is that if you didn't do anything, that all the work that you did last year on all those non-branded keywords would stay the same this year. So you're only getting the difference. Now we had well, not a customer, but a company that was almost a customer that was a big retailer that had a lot of, that was a brick and mortar, but they had a really good online business. They got into search early, and they looked at it this way. And over a 2-year period, and they had one search person, and he couldn't get any more resources because they ran the numbers like this. And when they looked at it, this was not nearly as profitable as their other channels, and they lost a lot of traffic. And until they lost the traffic, once they lost the traffic, someone said, we're looking at this backwards. This stuff that we're getting from last year is not necessarily going to be guaranteed this year. We need to invest just to get what we got last year. And they changed the model. And then when they did that, the numbers looked a lot bigger. The margins were bigger. The profit, the multiples on investment were higher. And then all of a sudden they hired a team, and things are kind of sort of getting back to where they were. So how to look good? So, all right, this is a compromise. Take the non-branded keywords. So you notice it's not all keywords. So you're saying, all right, I'll give you the brand keywords. But I want to look at the year. I want to look at all the revenue for those keywords. I don't care if I got traffic for last year because that can go away. And I want some attribution, right? I want to look at some 30-day cycle or 60-day cycle, something like that. Again, overall my cost. And if you want to look great, right? Now this is what I would start with when you're making a pitch for this. All the keywords, all the revenue, multi-session, plus, you know what? Some of this SEO work that we're doing, some of this data, well, Bob on the pay team is using some of that information because he's using my rank data to make his paid search programs better and other things, and all these other guys are using some of my stuff. So I want a little discount on my SEO investment, right? Maybe 90% or 80%, so I'm lowering my denominator. I got a higher numerator up here, and you know, you have a nicer model here, right? You have a better, this is obviously the holy grail of ROI models. But if most companies don't, I mean, they don't even have like a mutually agreed upon way of thinking about the ROI for SEO, but that's important because that's how people that look at lots of things and say, let's do that, let's not do that, and that determines the future of your next year, right? They look at things like this. They look at numbers. How much did we spend? What did we get back? 5 times, 10 times, 12 times? Great, 12 times, let's do more of that. 2 times, let's not do more of that. But there's an option. If your company doesn't have a point of view on it, great. Give them one. And this is just a Boston matrix, right? Where do you want to fall? Where do you fall now? Where do you want to be? I like that one. Because it's tangible. All right, 2 more, or 3 more, 2.5 more. All right, so make SEO everyone's responsibility. Another company I spoke to, that's a customer of ours at shop.org, really cool. This kind of lines up with some of the other stuff that we're talking about, but they implemented this program as part of their SEO initiative, which is a top 3 marketing initiative and one of the kind of key company initiatives, where everyone that touches the website has their top 3 list of things that they should be doing as it relates to SEO. And again, one of the hardest parts about the role or this marketing strategy is that you need the best way to do it is when you have people that don't have SEO in their job description, they don't have it in their goals, but you need them to succeed. Or you can succeed more when you have them. So this is just some ideas, right? But if you can, this requires obviously quite a bit of executive buy-in. But if you can figure out a way to get other people, I mean, again, it's the same concept. Figure out get people who don't do SEO as their job, but if you get them to do something, and you can get them to have a top 3 list, put it in their cube, then that's awesome. We're going to start doing this for our customers, where we give them we give them like these welcome kits and give them like this little packet, which is like a bunch of stick-ups that they can give to other people, which is like, hey, here's your top 3 things that you can do. Now, once you get people doing stuff, they need to get feedback, hopefully positive feedback, right? It's like, why do we spend all our time playing Farmville and Angry Birds? Well, because you get badges and things and you feel good, right? It's the whole concept of like gamification, right? There's a lot of literature now on like gamification for business applications and all kinds of things, right? People need to feel good. I mean, they want to get something back. Now, obviously, you can't give them feedback all the time, but the more you can help people feel good about the work that they're doing, because you've been being cute and getting your way into everyone's kind of day to day, you got to share the wins, you got to share the losses, you got to make people feel good about what's happening. So it's just some ideas. Share your dashboard with folks. Make a dashboard for everybody else. Put things like this, that big poster, up on the board. Send reports to stakeholders. Have SEO contests. I don't have any good ideas. I just hear other good ideas, and I'm going to just share them with you. SEO contests. We have a couple of customers that have contests every quarter. And it's like a goal, here's what we need people to do, and get people thinking about it. They get an iPad, they get a Starbucks gift card, whatever it is. We have a customer that have quarterly SEO awards, where anyone that's not on the SEO team, they have an award at their all hands meeting where they give an award out to the contributors that made the biggest impact on SEO based on what their metrics were. They publicly give it to them. They give them a trophy. Here you go, Sharon. Here's a trophy for doing SEO. And everyone else is like, oh, I want a trophy too. I'm gonna help you this quarter. But I'm serious. These things work. Give everybody credit. Everyone, you have to be a very humble person doing SEO in a company. Anytime anything goes well, it's because the other guy did it, and he that other person. Share the credit. When things go wrong, it's all your fault, right? Fall on the sword. Ultimately, the people who matter will realize, like, hey, you're here and now things are getting better, but you want to share the other credit, because if other people are feeling good and you're publicly praising them for doing good stuff, then they're going to want to do more of it, right? That's key. This is our office. We have some initiatives going. This is actually one of our marketing initiatives. We have the dashboard up on the wall. Everyone sees it. Everyone plays a role. Do the same, right? Share the information as much as you can. All right, last thing, and this is a fast one, but if your company, if the senior leadership in your company thinks SEO is free search, then stop and spend all your time making sure that they don't think that, right? It's not free. You need to invest. You need to invest to maintain. The world is changing. You need to invest to grow. You need to invest just to stay the same and keep the things that you have last year. That's the way it works. It's the same. It's just like paid search. 3 years ago, it might have been $1 a click. Next year, it's $1.25. Next year, it's $1.50. You're still making money, but you gotta have the right mentality. People in your company think it's free search. Try your best to change that. If they don't change that, email me, and I will. There's lots of opportunities out there because it's going to be hard to succeed if that's what people think. So here's a wrap up. All this stuff is on there's a bunch of downloads. The presentation, there's a bunch of worksheets that I showed you, the P&L, the other presentation. There's a couple other things in there. All obviously free stuff. Again, hopefully you got one good idea. And if you do something with that, please email me and let me know. And I need some dopamine as well. I need some feedback that I'm doing something good here. So let me know about your successes, and I will spread that around and keep preaching the good stuff. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Any questions? You've got answers.
I have to agree with you a lot about making it more transparent, because I think I work with Seer Interactive, and we find a lot of the bigger clients that we work with, they want to see the numbers, they want to see the actual return that is to the bottom line. The only thing that really kind of it seems like it's a little inconsistent is your denominator.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is that part of it. I don't want to say sketchy, but it's basically saying, okay, if you're spending, $1 million across your personnel, your programs, and a lot of this, again, it's not exact math. If your engineers spend 5% of their time on SEO, then you need to do like a salary allocation, right? But it's basically saying, well, a lot of the work that I did, or some of the work that I did, was actually not even to help grow the SEO channel. So I want to share that like an agency and take some of my cost off of my denominator and put that on someone else's P&L. So if your resources are getting hijacked by another department to help their department hit their numbers, great. Be a good citizen, help them out, obviously. But some percentage of your resources should be discounted from your denominator, so that expense is not coming off of your number. Now again, that's the dream scenario. I'd say if it's extreme that you can do that, like if you have 50% of your headcount is spending time working just with the paid search team, helping them do things, then you probably want to make a business case for a discount. If it's a small thing, like you're sending some reports, then I wouldn't bring it up.
And I totally agree with your concept. My question is, how do you get those percentages and like break them down to it's like, all right, so I know that my data helped bring in 20% of PPC revenue.
But it's not about what you brought in. It's just about like, hey, if you have 3 guys on your team and one of them makes $100K, and in the last 90 days you feel like he spent 50% of his time helping the display advertising team or doing something that wasn't contributing to SEO from a revenue perspective, then you could say $50,000, right? You might have to build a model, or if it doesn't make sense or you have to really stretch, then it's not real, right? I mean, I think SEO is, there's a kind of a world that's kind of emerging where it's not just about driving traffic, but you can use data from SEO to drive other channels. So if your other channels are using the SEO team a lot to help them with aspects of what they're doing, then that's when you want to do that. But again, I wouldn't. That's probably the least consequential of all the things that I shared. The bigger ones are getting that year over year versus the full year, and the brand, non-brand, and then the attribution.
With some keywords taking up less, or having less real estate for organic results, how can a company kind of track universal search items to kind of go back into your plan and kind of see how they're increasing visibility or traffic revenue that way?
It's tricky, right? I mean, if you want to look at, the business metrics, right, and you want to see like SEO traffic, right? This is where this gets really tricky, right? Because you want to look at SEO traffic, and that's one of your success metrics, right? Because you're a publisher and you care about traffic. But your videos are hosted on YouTube, and you don't know how much traffic is going to that YouTube page, then that you got to figure out how you want to handle that, right? Do you want to look at the views and have some kind of conversion metric that converts YouTube views to visitors that you can put on your sheet? That gets difficult. Obviously, if it's going to your site, it's still going to show up as referring traffic from a search engine. And then from a ranking perspective, I mean, you can do things to understand where there's tools out there that can help you with understanding where your videos and things are showing up in the search engines.
You mentioned that we need to have better technology to get better SEO. Can you share with us some of the paid or free software or technology that you use to get better SEO?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what our business does, right? So we're a 50-person company. We have 25 engineers that are making SEO software for almost 4 years now, 3.5 years. So there's a lot of millions of dollars invested into that. That's what we do. Go to our website, obviously. There's do a search in Google, SEO tools, SEO products. There's a lot of stuff. We started off. I started off my career in SEO using advanced web ranking. I don't see a lot of people using it anymore because I don't think people want to do their own web capture and their own rank capturing, and it's getting harder because the data, it's like what's right, what's wrong. It's all the usual suspects. SEO Month is a good product. Google AdWords, provides a lot of good data. Webmaster Tools has data. There's a lot of stuff out there. If you're, if you want a sales pitch, I'm happy to give you one. after the presentation, but I don't want to do that now. Right?
Do you think like in the next, now or the next 6 months, 12 months, that companies should treat traditional desktop search results the same as mobile results, or is there kind of a way to kind of separate that?
It's a good question. So we keep like a very strawman index of how the differentiation between mobile SERPs and kind of desktop SERPs against the same query set. And I'd say in the last 6 months we've started to see a bigger gap than we've ever seen before. But before then, other than like normal localization kind of changes, the mobile SERPs were pretty much similar. So we're starting to see more of a divergence where the results are different. It's still not as different as you think it would be, other than them being localized. I think in an ideal world, of course, right? But the reality is like, we deal with either very large companies with big problems, or we deal with medium-sized companies that are giant internet marketers. And I'd say for the first category, there's so many other things that they're not doing that are kind of in the scope of the basics, or maybe secondary basics, that I think looking at the mobile, looking at like creating a separate mobile strategy is maybe something for 2012 or 2013. I haven't seen too many customers of ours have like explicit mobile search teams that they're doing completely different efforts, unless their whole business is mobile. But I do think it's obvious. I mean, look at your web traffic, right? It's the trends are going to drive it, right? It's a data-driven decision. What's your traffic? Just the same reason why Bing strategies versus Google, right? Why don't most companies have this explicit Bing strategy? Because they're getting 10% of their commercial traffic from it, right? So once those numbers, if you were getting 50% from Bing, then you'd have a more explicit strategy. And I think for things like that, it's better to be reactive, because if you're too proactive and trying to chase all the new things, then you could spin a lot of wheels and things might not work for you.
One thing I wanted to say was we have used SEO mods, and one thing that we didn't pay attention to was the amount of pages that they index. So our site has over hundreds of thousands of pages, and they were only at that time indexing like 10,000. So does your product, how many pages does your product index on a site? Because if it's only indexing 2,000 pages, it wouldn't be.
I mean, I'd say the big difference between what we do and what Rand's product does, which is a great product, is just who we focus on. So we focus on companies that have bigger scale and much larger keyword sets and much larger data sets, and that's just not, that's from one, the ability to get data, the ability to process data, and then having UIs that make it easier to access very large sets of data. So I think that's a good example. So for us, it's unlimited, right? It's not, there's no cap on it. And I'd say most of our customers have bigger websites, right? I mean, Nike's got a lot of pages on their site. Any other thoughts? My email's not up here, but it's seth@conductor.com, so feel free to send me an email. And hope this was helpful. Again, if there's anything that's great here, let me know, because I'd love to know.
Why don't we go ahead and take a 15-minute break so you can go get some more pastries and coffee from Amelie's. When we come back, John Payne, Brian McDowell, and Arnie Kent.